It's Wednesday, the 10th of February 2016. My name is Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm, episode 1. And joining me is James Woodall.
Mr. Yellow.
How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Yourself?
I don't know why I call you sir. You haven't been knighted this week, have you?
Not that I'm aware of, but, many things have happened.
And this time, this is our first official episode. Of course, we've had a pilot episode, but we're going to try and avoid saying a very small word, aren't we, this time round? There it is. There she blows.
Yes, we'll try.
We'll give it a go, see what happens. Let's get on with the first topic. Now, in the United States this week, something happened of which we as Brits have very little comprehension of how important it is to American culture. Mm-hmm. And that was the enormous sporting event that is the Super Bowl. And advertisements at the Super Bowl cost $5 million for 30 seconds. So as you can imagine, companies that place adverts during the Super Bowl make sure that they are really good adverts. And one advert actually caught my attention this week, James, which was an advert for Amazon for the Amazon Echo. Have you come across the Echo? Have you seen the Amazon Echo?
Siri on steroids.
That is a fantastic way of summing it up, actually. If you could imagine a sort of two black Coke cans stacked on top of each other, with a sort of glowing rim light round the top and a couple of buttons and pretty much that and an Amazon logo and that's it. What does it do?
Well, it's a really interesting concept, the mobile assistant that we're all familiar with the Siris and the Google Nows, being a fixed device that just sits there. It's the same, I guess, response and interaction, but with a physical being almost, as opposed to you carrying it around. It sits there, and I'm intrigued.
As far as I can see, people are putting these things in their kitchen and leaving them on. And when it was launched, there was a curious sort of launch video from Amazon which showed this very fake family of actors interacting with it. The son asked it to play rock music, and mum asked it to convert, some sticks of butter to grams or something, and dad asked it what the capital of somewhere was, and it was all very sugary and very schmaltzy, and in fact got parodied very quickly. But the idea is that this device is sitting there listening to everything everybody's saying, and then when a question arises, which is triggered by the code word, which is as the name for their Siri system is Alexa. So it's a trigger word, hey or okay, and then Alexa. I'm trying very carefully not to say the trigger phrase in case anybody is playing this podcast out loud and it triggers their Amazon Echo. Of course, won't be too much of a problem in the UK, James, because they haven't actually started selling it here.
But that does raise an interesting question that it brings me back to an Xbox story a while back where Xbox adverts on your TV would wake up your Xbox. So, hey, there's certainly some industry experience.
Was that deliberate?
Well, who knows? I don't know. These crazy marketing people, I'm not a marketing person.
No, you're not, and neither am I. And what we want to do, of course, for this segment is to understand whether, because of Amazon's investment in this Super Bowl advert, whether the Amazon Echo, which of course is going to be now news to your average American, outside of the kind of tech zone, the Techsphere, people like you and I that follow this stuff, the average person on the street probably hasn't heard of it. And now, whatever it is, 100 million Americans have just been told in no uncertain terms by Alec Baldwin and Jason Schwartzman in a very expensive advert that it exists and how it works. Do you think it's going to be a winner?
I think it will be, if people are not necessarily aware that it is continually listening to everything that you're saying.
Yeah, and that's goes to the heart of the potential problem with this, which is why it might not work. Because on the face of it, sounds fantastic. And let's face it, you're talking to your house. You're asking it questions about the temperature. It can also do things like order Uber cabs. It can order pizzas. It can summon your car. If you have a Tesla with the summon feature, your car can automatically come out of the garage and present itself at the front door. That's true fact. But of course, I suppose what confuses me is that so many people would allow a device to listen to everything that you are saying inside your home, including your children.
And I think the point is whether or not people actually are concerned with that, or if they're ever made aware of it. It's not going to be in Amazon's interest to start beating the drum saying, hey, everybody, we're listening to everything that you're saying. So they need to find ways of making this really attractive to outweigh that if it ever creeps into the public, Thinksphere.
Thinksphere. And ladies and gentlemen, we make up words on this show. That's how good it is. The Thinksphere, I'll use that one. I may cut that out. And that by the way, which I've just noticed I'm doing. Okay, let's come back to the real problem here, which is potential privacy concerns. The device itself is very impressive, and I think it was launched about a year ago, just over a year ago, and those individuals that are aware of it, with no marketing or fanfare, but those individuals in the tech community that knew about it and that have got it, especially journalists and reviewers, absolutely love it. And I know people by proxy in the States who've got 2 or 3 of them, one in the bedroom, one in the kitchen, one in the living room, because it is so useful. It will turn the lights on and off for you. It will answer those random questions. It'll settle arguments. And it's impressive. But they just need one data leak, one piece of recorded voice or something that leaks, and it's game over. And I think this could be why neither Apple or Google, Apple with Siri and Google with Google Now, would seem like it would be a great market for them to get into, and they've made no moves whatsoever to produce a competing device.
But of course, they already have the infrastructure, so there is nothing to stop Apple from doing that. Although, of course, Apple TV, and I'm sure you'll tell me some fact about Google Chromecast, Apple TV, the new version, does include Siri. So there is already the home appliance from those two competitors. Regarding Apple,
with the Apple TV, you have the Apple TV, don't you?
I have a previous generation. I don't yet have the new one. But
I believe you have to press and hold the button to actually activate it, whereas the Amazon Echo can be left running continually.
The companies, both Google and Apple, do have the infrastructure to be able to do this, and it is also tried and tested infrastructure. Amazon Echo, although they did, of course, do similar things with this in the Amazon Fire.
Yes, I think they've just introduced this system to the Fire TV and Fire TV Stick this week or last week.
Right, okay.
So it's coming. And also, the Google equivalent of an Apple TV is called a Nexus Player, and it does have voice control, again, with a voice button that you have to press and hold to activate. But I can exclusively reveal it's rubbish. It doesn't work. I've had 2 of these devices. The sound control, voice activation hasn't worked on either of them, so wouldn't recommend that. Okay, James, is it real or is it a Techtasm?
Is it real? It's definitely real. I would get one for the same reason that you would get one, because we both love tech. Will it pick up for the mass market? It really depends on how well they play the PR regarding the constant listening of audio. That's the thing that's going to clinch this. The technology is irrelevant because it's been proven through all these other companies. I can't predict the PR, so I don't have an answer for you.
Well, that's fine. I'm going to call it for Amazon and say this is real, because they wouldn't have spent $5 million on Alec Baldwin, Jason Schwartzman, and the Super Bowl if they didn't think it was going to get good traction. And it has been out a year, and there haven't been any problems so far. So I think this is real. Good on you, Amazon. This week, Ars Technica reported about the rise of chat networks and the fall of chat networks. Because at the end of October 2014, quite a while ago, I know, but after 15 years of service, Microsoft closed MSN Windows Live. It was originally called MSN Messenger, which is how I remember it. But the demise wasn't overnight because Microsoft had already invested in Skype, which is actually what we're using to record this show, as a kind of replacement. So it was kind of long in the tooth. And there were things like AOL Chat and CompuServe, these old sort of bulletin ICQ, yeah, these old bulletin boards and messenger systems where people would sort of get together. So it looks on the face of it that they're all sort of dying, closing down, shutting down. But are they?
It's really interesting because we've seen almost like waves the messaging services of yesteryear, the MSN messengers are.
Well, I use WhatsApp a lot. I use it with you.
WhatsApp is that's the new way of doing it. It's more mobile. MSN died before mobile. Maybe if they kept MSN alive a little bit longer or integrated it into Skype, who knows, could it have been alive? But it's almost like a wave. The 2000s were all about MSN Messenger, and the 2010s are now the WhatsApps and the Vibers and so forth. It's the same concept.
But totally mobile, as you say. I don't think you can run WhatsApp on the desktop. I think you can with a cheeky web client. They do have a kind of web app, but it's discouraged, isn't it? I don't think you can own WhatsApp without having a mobile phone.
Correct. Viber have a great desktop application, although it does confuse me, as you say, as to why WhatsApp don't. I do have many, many fond memories of MSN Messenger. It seemed to be the in thing. In fact, in my career youth, talking to Microsoft people via MSN Messenger was a minor for a geek career high. And obviously it doesn't surprise people that Microsoft internally used MSN Messenger.
So the messaging system hasn't gone away.
Correct.
So I think, if anything, it's got bigger. And we've missed out WeChat and Line, which are by far the biggest messaging apps. They're Asia-Pac based, where there is a lot more functionality than there is, for example, with either Skype messaging or WhatsApp. But history is littered with failures. Do you remember BlackBerry BBS?
Yes, of course.
Which was massive with the youth.
Yes.
For a while, and then just died. I think with the company itself, of course.
I never understood, to be honest, why BlackBerry, being an enterprise company, managed to somehow capture the youth market with their chat application. That never seemed to make sense to me. But yes, it was quite incredible. I think perhaps we will probably be doing another episode in 2 to 3 years' time of the same story about how the wave that we think is big and powerful has dropped off, and a new wave, UChat, or I don't know, let's make up some names here, are now the big thing.
Well, of course, Mark Zuckerberg is betting on WhatsApp. He paid $19 billion for that company when he bought it in, when was it, 2015 or 14? And that, at the time, he was criticized for spending so much money on it. But now, of course, it's past its 1 billion. Just hit a billionth user this month.
Wow.
For WhatsApp. I mean, that's large. If you are a WhatsApp user, then you'll know what I'm talking about. It's the most useful thing on your phone. You can make calls on it, and the call quality is excellent. And of course, taps into Facebook's enormous global infrastructure of servers and point of presence, access points to its tier 1 content delivery network. And you can also
have video.
It doesn't have video, no. It's just IM and voice, which is enough. And I think that's really good because, of course, Skype has video and it can do those other things. But most of the people I know are on one of two systems. And remember, we're UK-based, both James and I, are on WhatsApp or they're on Facebook Messenger. Now, I don't use Facebook Messenger. I'm not a massive Facebook user, but I know you are, James.
Yes, I am, but I too don't really use Facebook Messenger.
Interesting. You use the IM tool that your friends are on, or your friendship group.
Yes, my wife introduced me to Viber, and as such, therefore, use Viber on a daily basis. I believe we once tried a Viber session.
Yeah.
I think maybe it lasted 2 or 3 messages, but
Yeah.
you and I, of course, both use WhatsApp primarily for communication with Skype, of course.
Well, WhatsApp has got a couple of extra features that the other things don't. The location, sending a location on WhatsApp is really good. The best thing about WhatsApp is the group messaging functionality. That is super fun. I went on a weekend vacation with some friends. About 14 of us actually went away to Ibiza in the Balearic Islands.
Nice.
in the Mediterranean for a weekend. And we enjoyed the run-up to that vacation on WhatsApp, in a big WhatsApp group, planning when we were going to arrive. We took photos and cracked jokes on the plane because we were all sitting in different seats. And we used it to document the holiday. Pretty much everybody used it for communication. There was Wi-Fi at the villa that we were staying at, and it really enhanced the experience. One of the assembled group took a photo of us all 14 of us, sitting around on sofas in this villa, sofas and seats, all of us with our heads in phones. And we were just exchanging jokes and comedy things. And it was totally bizarre. And it really blew me away that actually a traditional view of that would have been, what on earth are you? It's what kids do. They've got their heads in phones the whole time. But once you've done it, you realize how brilliant it is. Just a better way of communicating sometimes. What the heck? Right.
So is it really the fall of the chat networks? I have to say absolutely not. I think there's waves of chat networks. There will probably always be waves of chat networks where features that are great today are not so important tomorrow. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to call it the same way. I think we're going to get more of it. People always want to talk to other people. Sometimes they want to record it. Sometimes, like Snapchat, they don't want to record it, or they want it to be very ephemeral. Sometimes they want the tools to just communicate to groups. Sometimes it's one-to-one. The variety of human communication is endless. So I think definitely it's a thing. It's a thing that's here to stay. The names may change, but the philosophy will remain the same. People always want to talk to other people. So we'll call that a reel. A reel? Is that what we're calling it?
We've made that up.
There it is.
I'm sticking with it.
It's a reel. James, have you heard of li-fi?
It sounds like science fiction, but
It's got the word "fi" in it, so it must be fiction of some description. Well, you've heard of Wi-Fi, of course, but you may not have heard of li-fi. Now, the li in li-fi stands for light, and the phi stands for fidelity. So it's a kind of li-fi is a kind of play on Wi-Fi. It's a method of communication. Now, right, I'm going to do my best to explain this. A bit of history. It was the term li-fi was originally coined by Professor Harold Haas from the University of Edinburgh. Now, he demonstrated this on TED at a TED Global Conference in 2011. So it's been around a few years. And it is a way of modulating light to actually transmit digital information. So what you do is you modulate the signal. LEDs can be switched very, very quickly, and their switching speed can be varied to encode a message. That means that an LED lamp can, what looks like to me and you, just produce white light, but to a photo detector, it can kind of pull the data out of it. Now, what this means is if you can see the light, you can receive the data. And there's some advantages to li-fi. It's 5 times faster than Wi-Fi. It's 10 times cheaper because actually, fundamentally, you've got a broadcasting light and you've got a camera on the other end, a photoreceptor. There's less interference because if you can see the light, it works. It's greater security because it can't be intercepted, can't go through walls. So it can be just used in the room. And it's very energy efficient because actually you're producing the energy for the light anyway, so it's almost like a bonus. Now, What are the disadvantages? Well, you can't use it in direct sunlight as it interferes with the signal. And of course, because actually one of its advantages that it's secure and can't travel through walls means that it can't travel through walls, so you can't use it like Wi-Fi around your house. And of course, when the light's off, it doesn't work. So it's got some drawbacks, but there are some interesting potential use cases for Li-Fi, like putting lights in a sports stadium or in a petrol station canopy or anywhere where there's a light. It could be a potential data source for you to tap into. So, James, are you excited about the idea of Li-Fi?
So cool.
It's really clever, isn't it?
Really impressive. However, the disadvantages are not things that you can just throw away. The idea that if you're on your phone connected to Li-Fi and you walk from one room to the other and the light is off in the next room, you're going to still need Wi-Fi.
Yes, that's true. But how about this? Let me propose this to you and see what you think. If I use Wi-Fi for the up channel, for entering data or putting in queries, and use Li-Fi for the down channel. Another advantage of Li-Fi is that we could have 10 or 20 devices in the same room, all reading the same light source without any real radio interference. So, for example, very good for transmitting video because it's got high bandwidth. And there can never really be any interference. You can't get any degradation. If you have to maintain 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 Wi-Fi connections at the same time and stream video to them, that's going to completely swamp your Wi-Fi and blow it up. Whereas a big bright light in the middle of a football stadium will transmit the same high bandwidth video to everybody in the stadium. That's got to be useful for something, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what you're describing just sounds like something that isn't there today. The idea that you have to synchronize communication channels is certainly solvable, but therefore Li-Fi by itself is probably not the answer. From a technology perspective, wow, it's amazing. In the practical aspect, I think the whole concept perhaps needs a bit more work before we'll start seeing it in our homes.
Well, in a way, it is what it is. It does this one thing very well, but it feels a bit niche to me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely real. But I think in terms of mass adoption and it affecting your life, call it, James.
It's probably a Techtasm.
It's a Techtasm. It's our first one. Mm-hmm. There it is. I feel like I've given birth. It's our first Techtasm. There it is. Okay. That's just about it for this week. Remember, you can find us at facebook.com/Techtasm. You can download this podcast from iTunes or on FeedBurner, but because you're listening to this, you probably have already done that. Please contact us at feedback@techtasm.com. And we record the show on Tuesday night, 2100 BST GMT, so watch out for more coming soon. This is me, Robin Yellow, and
me, James Woodall,
saying, is it real? Or is it just a Techtasm?